Ayo! Hello, Fantastics. It's Mr.Clintastik here today with a Strixhaven School of Mages limited review. Today we'll be focusing on several card types, including modal double face cards, gold cards, and colorless and artifacts and lands. So we're gonna do this section by section. And this is quite a bit of cards today. So we're gonna hop right in. I've already done the mono colored cards: white, blue, black, red, and green. You can find it on my YouTube as well as my Facebook, Mr.Clintastik. Be sure to give a follow and a like, help my channel grow, and help me get exposed to more people. So yeah. So now we're going to jump right into the modal double-faced cards. Here we have Augmenter Pugilist, 3-drop green, 1 generic 2 green troll druid, has trample. As long as you control 8 or more lands, Augmenter Pugilist gets 5/5. It's a 3/3. Okay, before we evaluate, let's turn over. This is a real nice feature here on scryfall.com. Alright, we have Echoing Equation. It's a 5-drop, 3 generic, 2 blue. Sorcery. Choose target creature you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of it until end of turn, except those creatures aren't legendary if the chosen creature is legendary. Interesting. So we're going to start with the Pugilist, 3-drop and green. I think this is okay. This is serviceable. It's 3-drop for 3. I mean, it's 3 power, 3 toughness for 3. Not 3-drop for 3. That's obvious. It has trample, which I think is very relevant. And then late game, it can give you a big boost in power that you don't even have to pay for. You just happen to have your 8 lands out. Boom, you have an 8/8 for 3. That's a lot of value. I'm going to rate this card pretty highly just with this. I'm leaning towards like a 3.5 or a 4. I think this is well above average, really. Just being a 3/3 trampler for 3, I think is amazing. So let's go to Echoing Equation. And I do think these modal double face cards, MDFCs, are gonna lean you in a certain color pair direction, and that's what I'm gonna be looking at when I evaluate and try to create some limited archetypes. So Echoing Equation, you choose target creatures you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of it until end turn, except those creatures aren't legendary, and if the chosen creature is legendary, well, yeah. I think that's interesting. It really depends on the creature you're gonna turn all your other creatures into. Like, say you have a creature and it's like turn all your 1/1 dwarves into, give them all 1/1, and you have like 6 creatures on the board. You slam Echoing Equation, right? All your creatures get 1/1 6 times. Like, that's game winning. So yeah, I like this card a lot. Even in green blue, I think it's pretty cool. I'm gonna give this a 4. It could drop. It could drop, but this is a card that I would easily pick up first and not even be upset about. Next we have Blex Vexing Pest, a 3-drop, 2 generic and a green, legendary pest. Other pests, bats, insects, snakes, and spiders you control get 1/1. Okay, when Blex Vexing Pest dies, you gain 4 life. It's a 3/2. Let's go and turn it over. Search for Blex, 4-drop, 2 generic and 2 black sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put any number of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. You lose 3 life for each card put into your hand this way. Okay, so I'm really liking this too. Of course it's mythic, right? But this can pump your pests. And I think that Pest is going to be an archetype that I at least try to play. I mean, come on. There's so many cards with that little Pest attachment to it. I think it's just going to be really fun to at least try to put together. It would be better if instead of just gaining you a life when they died, they gained you a life and made your opponent lose a life, but they gave us what they could give us. But anyway, going back to Bleck's Vexing Pest, a 3-drop 3/2. It's not bad. Pumps your other potential creatures. That's not bad. And when it dies, gains you 4 life. I think this is great. On the surface, I'm giving it a 3.5. I think it's well above average. And especially with the search for Blecks on the other side. A 4-drop in black that can give you cards in your hand. Granted, you're going to want to gain life, but if you have pests, if you're, like green black pests or whatnot, and you're gaining life regardless, you're not going to care about losing a few life. I'm still going to give this like a 3.5, and I really think this is a 3.75. Really? Like this on its own, I don't know if it's as good as a 3-drop trampler that can become an 8/8. So I'm gonna give it a 3.5 for now, and I think that could go up. Bleck's Vexing Pest. All right. Next we have Extras Oracle Overlord, a 4-drop, 1 generic, 1 white, 2 black, legendary creature, human warlock with double strike. That's relevant because one of the Elder Dragons, the white black Elder Dragon, I believe is a 2/5 double strike. So maybe that's something that white black's gonna have going on. It has Magecraft, pretty sweet. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, return target non-legendary creature from your graveyard to your hand. It's a 2/4. I mean, okay, let's turn it over. On the other side, we have an 8-drop, a 6 generic, black and a red sorcery. Okay, so that makes this card what? Goodness, 3 colors. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each creature you sacrifice this way. Each opponent sacks a creature. Create a 3/6 black and red avatar creature token with haste, and whenever this creature attacks, it deals 3 damage to each opponent. Gee whiz! Okay, this card is instantly a 4. You're gonna want to be in Mardu, which this is the type of card where I would think like, okay, maybe Mardu is a potential color type. We got to see what our fixing is looking like. Extras Oracle Overlord by itself is already good, being a 4-drop 2/4 double striker with Magecraft. That's already just A1. The Magecraft ability to get a non-legendary creature from your graveyard to your hand, that could be anything. Pretty much. You're not going to have a bunch of legendaries in your yard, so that's pretty sexy right there. And then Awaken the Blood avatar, my god. They could blow up your 3/6 or whatnot, but if they can't blow up your 3/6, whenever it attacks, it deals 3 damage to each opponent. This is ridiculous. Definitely first pickable. I'm gonna give it a 4.25. I think it's a little better than the Pugilist. Like, I would rather go with this card than the Pugilist, even though the Pugilist is probably easier to cast. I really like Extras Oracle Overlord, and it's in a color pair, white-black, that I typically like to play in Limited. Next we have Flame Scroll Celebrant, a 2-drop, 1 generic and a red, human shaman. Whenever an opponent activates an ability that isn't a mana ability, Flame Scroll Celebrant deals 1 damage to that player. Okay, pay 2, 1 generic and a red, Flame Scroll Celebrant gets +2/+0 until end of turn. It's a 2/1. On the flip side, we have Revel in Silence, double white. Your opponents can't cast spells or activate Planeswalker loyalty abilities this turn. Exile, revel in silence. Interesting text. It is double white. I'm not really high on this card. I'm gonna put it in a 3.5. Simply being a 2-drop 2/1 that can pump, or is it called fire breathe, I believe. It's pretty potent because, like, say this is on the board, they have nothing out. You swing in, you pump in 4 mana, you're swinging for 6. So that's really good on its own. And if they happen to activate an ability that isn't a mountain ability, you're pinging. I like it. And the flip side, it's instant speed, but it's double white, which might not be a problem in your aggressive red-white decks. You know what? This is actually better than I'm thinking. Your opponents can't cast spells or activate planeswalker ability. Like, they can't cast anything in that turn. Red-white's really going to want to see this. I'm going to put this up to 3.75. I think this card is really amazing to have that that modal option. Like, I was just looking at the planeswalker loyalty part, but the can't cast spells this turn. Like, oh, it's my turn. Whoa. Before you go crazy now, you can't cast spells. Yeah, I'm giving it a 3.75. I think Flame Scroll Celebrant is a definite reason to go into Boros. Next we have Jazzy, Oracle of Arcavios. It's an 8-drop, 6 generic and 2 blue. Legendary creature, human wizard. Discard a card, return Jazzy to its owner's hand. Okay, so it has a little protection behind it. It better for 8 mana. My goodness. Has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a non-land card, you may cast it by paying 1 rather than paying its mana cost. If it's a land card, put onto the battlefield. This card is absolutely ridiculous. Wow. Granted, it's 8 mana. Its ability is silly. On the flip side, we have Journey to the Oracle. 2 generic, 2 green sorcery. You may put any number of lands from your hand onto the battlefield. Then, if you control 8 or more lands, you may discard a card. If you do, return Journey to the Oracle to its owner's hand. Wow. I mean, why would you want to put this back in your hand if you already, like, dumped all your lands? But maybe you want to use it to trigger Magecraft. Oh, yeah. You'd want to play this. Big brain in here. Big brain in. You'd want to play this, dump all of your lands onto the board, and then play this guy after discarding the card and bouncing Journey to the Oracle back to your hand. This is 5. This is a 5. Now, I don't know if I probably forgot to say it in this video. I do rate the cards 1 through 5, 1 being pretty much unplayable, 5 being just absolute gasoline. And this is one of those gasoline cards here. Jazzy, Oracle of Arcavios. I'm not going to like saying it every time, but my goodness, that card is broken. That card is broken. And so we're already seeing 2 things in blue-green. You know, one's a rare, one's a mythic. Who's to say you'll get both? But my God, that's some power in Simic so far. And it's good because mono blue, there wasn't a lot of power in mono blue. Green had some delicacies in it. And here we have another Simic card. Okay. Cayenne. It's probably cayenne. Dean of Substance, a 3-drop, 2 generic, and a green legendary creature, Elf Druid. You can tap it, exile the top card of your library. If it is a land card, put it into your hand. Okay. Okay. Otherwise, put a study counter on it. Huh? Wait. So I guess it stays exile. Pay 5 for generic and a green. Create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put a 1/1 counter on it for each different mana value among non-land cards you own in exile with steady counters on them. It's a 2/2. Huh. Interesting. That's different. On the flip side, we have Imbraham, Dean of Theory. It's a 4-drop, 2 generic, 2 blue, legendary bird wizard with flying. Pay X and 2 blue. Tap, exile top X cards of your library, and put a steady counter on each of them. Then you may put a card you own in exile with a steady counter on it into your hand. It's a 3/3. So a 4-drop 3/3 bird with flying, or a 3-drop 2/2 that exiles top cards of your library and potentially puts lands in your hand. I'm gonna give this a 3 point. Really, geez, I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I think the 4-drop 3/3 flyer is fine. How often you're gonna want to exile top card of your library, I don't know, but maybe there's some kind of bounce theme where you like exile a bunch of times with this and then you bounce it back to your hand and then put this to the board, but that seems like a lot of work. I'm gonna get us a 3.5 for now, simply just being a 4-drop 3/3, and that could creep up really to like a 3.75. You know, it's not bad, but I just don't know how that ability is gonna work in limited. So I'm really just evaluating it on being a 4-drop 3/3 with some upside. Next we have Mila, Crafty Companion. 3-drop, 1 generic, 2 white, legendary creature Fox. Whenever an opponent attacks one or more planeswalkers you control, put a loyalty counter on each walker you control. Whenever a permanent you control becomes a target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card. Okay, 3-drop 2/3. Could have gave it first strike, right? Like, would that have killed him? 3-drop 2/3 first striker with some upside. It's a mythic. Come on now, or maybe Magecraft or something, but it gives you a little bit of protection and whatnot. On the flip side, we have Luca Wayward Bonder, a 6-drop 4 generic 2 red. Legendary Planeswalker Luca. You may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. If a creature card was discarded this way, draw 2 cards instead. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of your next end step. You get an emblem whenever a creature ETBs under your control. It deals damage equal to its power to any target. So this is, in my opinion, it's definitely a 5. The fact that it does have a lower cost inside that you can use early and that can give you value, even if it's targeted to draw a card, is great. And then having Luca Wayward Bonder on the other side, this is absolute ridiculous. Red-white is going to have some gasoline, I can already tell. And just having one of these bombs to fuel your fire is going to make your day in limited. Next we have Pestilent Cauldron, a 3-drop, 2 generic, and a black artifact. It has 3 options on it. You can tap, discard a card, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with, when this creature dies you gain 1 life. You can pay 1, tap, each opponent mills cards equal to the amount of life you gain this turn. Pay 4 and tap, exile 4 target cards from a single graveyard and draw a card. So I love this. I really like this. I think this gives green black a lot of gasoline. Before we finish that, I'm gonna come back to it. On the flip side, we have Restorative Burst, a 5-drop, 3 generic, 2 green sorcery. Return up to 2 target creature, land, and or planeswalker cards from your graveyard to your hand. Each player gains 4 life. Exile Restorative Burst. I don't like that so much. I don't want to give my opponents anything. I've been playing Magic a few years now, and I've just learned that if you have to give your opponent something, like you have to pay something to get something, and then your opponents benefit off of that, that's wrong. So Restorative Burst loses a lot of value. I really wouldn't even play this side if I had the option to. It's tacked on to a relatively good card in my opinion. I like Pestilent Cauldron just being a 3-drop that can potentially generate me some tokens, right? But you do have to discard a card, right? And then the second ability doesn't even work unless you gain life this turn. I mean, it can keep the graveyard clear. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I want to rate it higher because it's something that I would like to play, and I would probably even try to play a couple copies if I came across them. But I can just see, like, there's so much work that has to be put into that card that it's just really above average, just a gold rare. Above average gold rare. Next we have Plarg, Dean of Chaos. It is a 2-drop, 1 generic, 1 red, legendary orc shaman. That's pretty neat. That's really cool. You can tap it, discard a card, draw a card. Okay, I'm cool with that. Pay 5 for generic and a red. Tap. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-legendary, non-land card with mana value 3 or less. You may cast a card without paying its mana cost. What? Put all revealed cards not cast this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. So a 2-drop 2/2 with that kind of upside? Ridiculous. Augusta, Dean of Order, 3-drop, 2 generic and a white. Other tapped creatures you control gets 1/0. Other untapped creatures you control gets 0/1. Whenever you attack, untap each creature you control, then tap any number of creatures you control. Red white's gonna have some sauce. I'm giving this a 5 automatic, just for Plarg, Dean of Chaos. This is freaking silly. You can have if you really want to, you can have a low drop Boros deck that could give you a lot of value, especially if you're running removal spells or if you're playing like Magecraft. This could even play the dog side of Luca, the wolf side of Luca, without a problem. And then this ability here, other tap creatures you control gets 1/0, so you can just swing in with your board. They all get 1/0 unless they have vigilance. And you can really control who taps and untaps. This card's nasty. Boros is looking absolutely disgusting. Boros and maybe Simic. And Mardu. I'm not going to forget about Mardu. We got a lot of archetypes to work on for limited. Next we have Rowan, Scholar of Sparks. 3-drop, 2 generic, and a red planeswalker. Rowan. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Thank you, thank you. +1, Rowan deals 1 damage to each opponent. If you've drawn 3 or more cards this turn, she deals 3 damage to each opponent instead. Okay. So potential, I mean, you tick it up and you're dealing a damage to each opponent every time. That's already value right there. You neg 4, you get an emblem with whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you may pay 2. If you do copy that spell, you may choose new targets for the copy. Ooh wee, and this is only 3 mana. It starts off at 2 loyalty, but I think those are some good abilities for Rowan, especially to be a red walker. On the other side, we have Will, Scholar of Frost, a 5-drop, 4 generic, and a blue planeswalker. Will. That's kind of, you usually get like really cool names for walkers, right? Like Rowan, for instance, and this card's just named William. I'm not hating though. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Okay, so basically the same ability as Rowan. +1 up to 1 target creature has base power and toughness 0/2 until your next turn. You can neg 3, draw 2 cards. Okay, and neg 7, exile up to 5 target permanents. For each permanent exile this way, its controller creates a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. So I'm giving this card like a 4.25 off bat. I think this side right here is really powerful. And even if you have to play Will, Scholar of Frost, or you get the opportunity to, it kind of protects you a little bit. It gives you a lot of draw power. And if you're able to neg 7, which I doubt you will, you can kind of control your board. This doesn't say that you just have to do this to your opponents. You could like exile their biggest thing and then exile your 4 little things, and yeah, they get a 4/4 blue and red elemental. Like I said, I don't like giving my opponents things, but if you get the value off that 4 things that can block it, well, I think that's a lot of value. I'm gonna give Rowan and Will a 4.25. Just automatic. They have so much versatility, and I think that's very relevant. And that really could go up. It might be a 4.5. It's definitely something I want to first pick. I think anything 4 and above is really like insta first pick. Next we have Selfless Glyph Weaver, a 3-drop 2 generic and a white human cleric. Exile Selfless Glyph Weaver. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. It's a 2/3. And we also have Deadly Vanity, a 8-drop 5 generic and 3 black sorcery. Choose a creature or planeswalker, then destroy all other creatures and walkers. So if Orzhov is going to be a thing, this is something that you're going to want. It's another board wipe, essentially. Takes a lot of mana to get there, and it's going to really depend on the format. To me, this is 4.25. It's well above average because you can save your whole board with just 1 creature. That's crazy. And to have the potential board wipe on the other side is pretty ridiculous too. It could easily be a 4.5, easily go up higher. Like, it really being a board wipe makes you want to just say 5, but the mana cost is really restrictive. Next we have Shail. I'm gonna call her Shail, Dean of Radiance. 2-drop 1 generic and a white bird cleric, flying vigilance. Tap it, put a 1/1 counter on each creature that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. It's a 1/1. Okay. On the flip side, we have Imbros, Dean of Shadow. 4-drop, 2 generic, 2 black. Legendary creature, human warlock. You can tap it, put a 1/1 counter on another target creature. Then Imbros, Dean of Shadows deals 2 damage to that creature. Okay. Whenever a creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it, dies, draw a card. I like this card. I'm gonna give it a 4.25. Kind of off rip. It's something like I definitely would play or pick early. The bird side is interesting. Just being a 2-drop 1/1 flyer with vigilance, I think is important, and the tap ability is strong as well. I do think Orzhov is gonna have a place in a draft archetype in this format. This is what you'll want to have there, and this is an interesting ability on the Imbro side as well. Put a 1/1 counter on another creature, and then Dean deals 2 damage to that creature, so you can pump your creature that's already big enough to survive, or you can kill their creature. That's a 1/1. And if a creature you control, or you could sack off one of your guys to draw a card. I like this card just because of the versatility, but it's interesting for sure. Next we have Torrent Sculptor. 4-drop, 2 generic, 2 blue, merfolk wizard. Has ward 2. When Torrent Sculptor ETBs, exile an instant of sorcery from your yard. Put a number of 1/1 counters on Torrent Sculptor equal to half that card's mana value rounded up. So if it's, say it's 4 mana, you put 2 1/1 counters on here. So a 4-drop 4/4 with ward. Okay. Even if it's a 3, but if it's a 2, it gets 1 counter. A 4-drop 3/3. On the flip side, we have Flamethrower Sonata. Ooh. 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 red. Sorcery, discard a card, then draw a card. When you discard an instant or sorcery card, this way, Flamethrower Sonata deals damage equal to that card's mana value to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. I'm going to give this a 4. If you're trying to go you'll want to play this. But this isn't something that immediately pops off the page for me. I kind of want to even give it like a 3.75. This side here is okay. You can potentially play a 4/4, and if you have a decent sized instant or sorcery in the yard, you get a decent sized creature with ward, which is great. That's kind of why I'm keeping it at 4. And if you don't want to play it for the wizard side, you want to use it as a removal spell, you can. So I think the versatility puts it well above curve, but I'm not liking how Izzet's looking personally, but I'm sure Izzet players will rejoice having these options here. Next we have Uvilda, Dean of Perfection, a 3-drop, 2 generic, and a blue Djinn Wizard, legendary creature. Tap. You may exile an instant or sorcery from your hand and put 3 hone counters on it. It gains at the beginning of your upkeep. If this card is exiled, remove a hone counter from it, and when the last hone counter is removed from this card, if it's exiled, you may cast it. It costs 4 less to cast this way. So they didn't make it free. They didn't make it free, 3-drop 2/2. And on the other side we have Nasari, Dean of Expression. 5-drop, 3 generic, 2 red, legendary creature, Efreet Shaman. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may cast spells from among those exiled cards. And you may spend mana as though it was any. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. Freaking tongue twisters. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, put a 1/1 counter on Nasiri, Dean of Expression. I'm gonna give this a 4. Actually, I really want to give it a 4.25. I think Nasari, Dean of Expression's ability is really ridiculous. Beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library. My goodness. And then you may cast those for free. That's like little Tybalt or something. That's really good. I want to give this a 4.25. And Uvilda, I think it's playable if you really have to, but I would much rather play the other side of this card, Nasari. And last on our modal double face cards, we have Valentine, Dean of Vane, a 1-drop black legendary creature, vampire warlock with menace and lifelink. I think that's gonna be relevant. Lifelink, it's gonna be relevant. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. When you do, you may pay 2. If you do, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with. When this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Alright. Lizette, Dean of the Roots. 4-drop, 2 generic, 2 green. Legendary creature, human druid. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 1. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. And those creatures gain trample until end of turn. This is nice. This is real nice in black-green. Oh my goodness. I'm giving this 4.25. It might be a 4.5, really. But I'm going to give it a 4.25 for now. But I can see this overperforming on either side. My goodness. Menace, lifelink, boom, boom. You can pump it, especially if you're in black-green. And then flip side, whenever you gain life, say you're in a pest deck, you gain life, put a counter on all your creatures whenever you gain life, so that's each instant. Oh my goodness. I'm giving this a 4.5 actually. This is, Lizette bumps it into a 4.5. This is ridiculous. Overall, I think the modal double face cards are all really nice. Was there one we didn't really like? Cayenne, I think it was. Cayenne wasn't that great. with Ibram. But other than that, I think every modal double face card was absolutely ridiculous. I think notable favorites, extras. I think extras is really good, especially with this other side here. Even though it's 8 mana, you sack your creatures. Ooh, maybe there's I can't remember if there was enough game control cards. I think there was only one, so you can't sack your opponent's things. But we haven't gone through all the gold cards yet. Maybe there's something there for us. But I think what really took the cake was Jazzy, Oracle of Arcavios, being able to basically play your things for 1 mana is going to be ridiculous, and having Journey to the Oracle on the other side, that's just really good. I do believe we gave that a 5. That was just absolutely ridiculous. So if you enjoyed this kind of content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to help my channel grow, help boost my confidence and my views. I'm going to wrap up this session and take a break. When I come back, we will be going over the gold cards one by one, and be sure to follow me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, all of those good things, Instagram. And as always, you guys are fantastic. My name's Clintastik, and I'm gonna take a short break. I'll be right back.